In 1915, an entire battalion marched into a cloud of mist and never marched back out. No bodies, no weapons, not a single trace was ever found. Over 250 men, gone, as if the earth had swallowed them whole. This is the enduring, supernatural mystery of the 5th Norfolk Battalion, the ghost soldiers of Gallipoli. The 5th Norfolk wasn't just any military unit. They were known as the Sandringham Men, a company composed almost entirely of estate workers for King George V himself. They were gamekeepers, gardeners, and servants from the king's personal estate. Patriotism ran deep in their blood. They were fiercely loyal to their king and just as loyal to each other. Their bond was unbreakable. On August 12, 1915, during the brutal Gallipoli campaign of World War I, they were given their orders: advance deep into a Turkish-controlled forest. Their mission was clear and dangerous: cut through the woods, break the enemy line from behind, and return victorious. But they wouldn't return as heroes. They would return as a legend. As the 5th Norfolk prepared to advance, eyewitnesses from nearby New Zealand units reported something strange. The woods ahead were shrouded in an unnatural fog. It wasn't like the usual morning mist that rolled over the hills. This fog was thick, white, and seemed completely unmoving, even as a breeze blew across the battlefield. It hung there like a solid wall. Undeterred, the battalion followed their orders. They marched forward, single file, straight into the eerie, silent cloud. The last thing anyone saw was the glint of the sun on their rifles, disappearing one by one into the haze. Minutes passed, then an hour, then the entire day went by. No one came out. No sounds of battle were heard, just silence. When the British commanders realized the battalion was missing, they sent out search parties. They combed through the woods where the men had last been seen. What they found was nothing. Absolutely nothing. The forest was empty. There were no bodies, no discarded gear, no signs of a struggle or a firefight, not even a drop of blood in the dirt. It was as if the battalion had stepped into another world and simply vanished. The mystery deepened when survivors from the nearby units shared a chilling detail. They claimed they saw a long, cigar-shaped cloud hovering motionlessly above the woods. It was unlike any cloud they had ever seen, and they swore they watched the entire battalion march directly into it, never to be seen again. The story of the vanishing battalion exploded. For years, the official explanation was that the men had been captured, executed, and secretly buried by the Turkish forces. But after the war, Turkish commanders were questioned, and their response only added to the mystery. They officially stated, "We did not engage them. We have never seen them." Another theory suggested the men had walked into a pocket of natural gas, which suffocated them silently. But again, that didn't explain the complete absence of bodies. And then came the theory that has kept this story alive for over a century. They were taken by a UFO. The strange, hovering cloud, the perfect disappearance with no evidence of combat, and the fact that no remains were found even decades later. It all pointed to something otherworldly. The details were too odd, the eyewitness accounts too strange. The legend of the Ghost Battalion was born, and it quickly became one of history's greatest unsolved paranormal mysteries. For 50 years, the fate of the 5th Norfolk remained a complete enigma. Then, in the 1960s, a mass grave was finally discovered by a local farmer near the battlefield. Inside, they found the remains of 122 soldiers. It was a somber discovery, but it only partially solved the puzzle. This was far fewer than the full battalion of over 250 men. Worse, many of the remains were burned so badly that identification was impossible. Investigators could never definitively confirm if these were the missing men of the 5th Norfolk. And even if they were, over 100 soldiers were still completely unaccounted for. Where were they? More than a century later, the question remains unanswered. How does an entire battalion of trained soldiers vanish without a trace in the middle of a war zone? Were they killed in a forgotten battle and their story covered up? Were they consumed by a freak fire? Or were they taken by something we simply can't explain? The Ghost Battalion of the 5th Norfolk still marches in the fog of history, their final footsteps lost forever in the mist. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this mystery, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the unknown.